Hello and welcome to Normal Islands Live. I'm Curtis Daly and I'm joined by the superb Lewis Aaron. Lewis, how are you?
Hello, hello. Hopefully my camera's working today and my microphone and everything
Looks like
else.
everything's working today. Yeah, well, I don't want to jinx it.
Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. How's your day going?
Yeah, pretty good actually. And very busy. I mean, to be fair, every day's busy, isn't it? I hope people appreciate that I've got my another blazer on. It's a new one, just like last time. I'm doing it for you guys, so I hope you
I have no
appreciate
comment.
it.
No
No
comment.
comment. No comment. Fine, whatever. I like it, and that's all that matters.
He likes his
Um,
blazers and his mother and his grandma.
but I'm so glad you're with me tonight because we've got a big show. We've got 4 stories we're covering because there's just so much to talk about. And that is an interaction between Labour MP Mike Tapp and Zack Polanski. Andy Burnham's poll ratings have, well, hit a slump. Wes Streeting's progressive capitalism, a new pitch for Labour leadership, and the Daily Mail calls out neo-Nazi Restore members. Remember to like the stream, make sure you're subscribed, and if you want to support us, then you can go to turnleftmedia.co.uk/support to help fund our work. You can also follow us on Twitch by going to twitch.tv/turnleftmedia. And by the way, if you haven't seen it already, you should have done. Me and Callum went to Makerfield and we reported on the ground with an exclusive interview with Andy Burnham. That's up on our channel. I recommend you do watch it. I think it's one of the best Vox Pops out of everyone, if I'll say so myself, obviously being biased. But let's get on with the show and on to our first story. A shocking exchange between Labour MP Mike Tapp and Green Party leader Zack Polanski took place on social media this week, where Tapp tried to essentially goad Zack into committing a terror offence. In response to the court backing the government on the Palestine action ban, Zack tweeted this. This government's branding of protest as terrorism has seen grandparents arrested and dragged through the court simply for holding up signs. It's deeply authoritarian when people are speaking out against a genocide and for a free Palestine. And you know what? He's completely right. He's absolutely right. I mean, the decision for the courts to side with the ban is shameful, and it's an attack on our freedom of speech. Simply saying the term, I support Palestine action, can land you up to 14 years in jail. Mike Tapp responded in the most disgusting way, potentially coaxing Zack into doing just that. Do you support the Palestine Action Group? I mean, there's almost no words, isn't it? Given that his government has made that, just saying I support Palestine Action a terrorist offence or terror offence, if Zack had replied yes, that would have been a terror offence. That is utterly revolting from a government minister. Now, Owen Jones called out Mike Tapp, which led to this exchange. The more I think about this, the more shocking it gets. A government minister asked a political opponent a question, knowing that if he'd answered yes, he would be arrested and potentially imprisoned. That's thanks to his government's unhinged law. It is so disturbing. And he responds with, I'm more disturbed that you spent the night thinking about me. The anti-Semitism I've woken to from the extreme left overnight is utterly unhinged, shameful, and disturbing. I'm sorry, but Tapp doesn't get to claim he's received anti-Semitic abuse from the extreme left after trying to goad a Jewish political leader to potentially prison. Now, I haven't seen any anti-Semitic comments, but rather, most people have been calling out his shameful behaviour. But is it any surprise that Tapp is a Zionist? Is it any surprise that he was made the honorary vice president of Labour Friends of Israel? Lewis, do you think Mike Tapp should be sacked for this?
Well, I think anybody who's a member of the Labour Friends of Israel should be sacked anyway. But yeah, it's obviously disgusting and goading. His background is very interesting. Like he joined Labour while he was in the army, and he's like former National Crime Agency. He's worked in intelligence, so it's not even just a case of like he knew what he was doing as a legislator to try and goad Zack Polanski into doing it. It was almost like he understands almost like the full consequences of it, even from his professional perspective with his background. And again, it's obvious what he was doing. Around the time that he was nominated as the honorary vice president of the Labour Friends of Israel, it was the same time. Oh God, I'm forgetting his name. John Pierce. Don't sue me. Who was made the head of the Labour Friends of Israel? I don't know if he was part of the party, but this is the same guy who, at the same time, John went to Israel, wrote an article in the Jerusalem Post, basically celebrating how Labour is literally going to crack down on protesters. That's what they did. It was an op-ed that's in the Jerusalem Post. You can go and see it. It said that the Labour Friends of Israel oppose arms sales being restricted. It opposes. Oh no, what did it say? It said the arrest warrants against Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant were questionable and dubious, if I remember correctly. So that's who essentially these people are. He's not even doing it from a perspective of maybe he's got no affiliation with Israel or supporting it in any way. He's doing it specifically from that position. Labour Friends of Israel are now hiding the list of their members. We don't know who is on the Labour Friends of Israel, but nobody should be on them at this point. There should be no members. It should have been made extinct by now with what is currently going on. And our government, they're still writing angry letters and strongly worded joint letters with other countries to say, what you're doing in the West Bank is very, very naughty. Please stop. And then they don't do anything else. So what else are we going to expect from a Labour MP just like this?
I think he might be referring to John Mann, like the anti-Semitism czar. And I think that's one of our commentators says. Also, Becca says, and I suspected this, but I didn't want to say it until it's confirmed, but he's not even Jewish. So he's saying, I've received anti-Semitic abuse. You're not even Jewish, but you're goading an actual Jewish leader of a political party, potentially to prison. And that's the thing, is you made up these rules, you set up those rules, and then you're goading someone to fulfill your rules. In terms of Labour Friends of Israel, look, if we're going to prescribe groups, right, prescribe people as terrorists, right, to be honest, if you want balance, we should be prescribing Labour Friends of Israel. I mean, you want to think that smashing up Elbit systems is an act of terrorism? What about sniping babies in the head? What about allowing Palestinians, prisoners, to be raped by dogs? And for anyone watching think I'm being hyperbolic, I'm not. These are documented cases. These things are happening, just like IDF soldiers are sniping babies in the head. These are documented. I'm not just saying crazy shit. In fact, the craziest thing you can think about in the IDF, they probably won up to in real life.
Yes, I just double checked. It is actually John Pierce, MP. He's no longer, because he got promoted in the government. He was the head of Labour Friends of Israel. He was put to that position around the same time as Mike Tapp. And again, call me conspiratorial, right? Because obviously we got the reporting previously that Mandelson was helping with the new MPs who were coming in. Both of these people, Mike Tapp and John Pierce, essentially the guy in charge of Labour Friends of Israel and the honorary vice president, both brand new MPs, both elected to the position of the Labour Friends of Israel. It seems like quite a weird job to be going in straight away. So is it people within the party who are more friendly towards the state of Israel who are helping get some of these MPs in? Obviously, we saw leading up to the Labour winning election, what was happening across the country with, Faiza Shaheen, who we interviewed about her getting kicked out because she was basically seen as too left. And obviously that happened to other candidates too. So why is it we've got these two new MPs who are at the head of this, what is a prominent group within the Labour Party, within Parliament? It just doesn't make sense to me. But what else are we going to continue to expect from this government? They're not going to do anything else. I don't think they're going to do anything further. I think they recently sanctioned some more settlers, which obviously isn't going to do anything. They've made their position very clear at this point. And I feel like the time passed long ago on this topic, where it comes to where do Labour stand and what are their chances of ever going back to a party who might hold Israel more accountable than they're doing now, which isn't very much. And I think it's just gone. I think the infrastructure and the foundation of the party has been changed so much that it's not even possible to capture it back. So I think anybody who is under the illusion that maybe they could stay in the Labour Party to change it for the better should think about maybe going somewhere else. And that's not even a promotion of anywhere else. I try to stay distance from any particular party or person or endorsing them, but the time has gone to, even defend who these MPs are, who they stand for, what they're defending, especially after what we've seen over the last week with Palestine Action and also the Fulton 4 as well. It continues just to disgust me every single day.
I completely agree with you. I think anyone who thinks that the Labour Party can be changed, or anyone who's expecting the party to change under Andy Burnham, I think it's you're naive. Not to be rude, but I think you are. And to be honest, if Andy Burnham changes some things, the only things I can see him changing are domestic policy, moving the economy maybe slightly to the left. There is one thing he absolutely will not change, and that's foreign policy, specifically on Israel. So, like, no matter who is Labour
Yep.
leader, you're right. It's not about the person; it's about the structures, isn't it? And obviously, the structures are essentially pro-Israel. I am gonna cut you off and move on there because we've got another 3 stories to get through. But we're going to be talking about Andy Burnham, so maybe we can move this conversation into the second story. Andy Burnham's poll ratings have fallen sharply as the Makerfield by-election is just 1 day away. In April, he enjoyed a positive rating, something extremely rare for politicians. But over the last few months, and especially in June, he has had a dramatic shift, with 41% having an unfavourable opinion compared to 30% who like him. That's going from a net +4 to -11. Of course, increased scrutiny and attacks from the right-wing media will have an effect. But is that the only reason? Well, another poll conducted by Ipsos showed that half of voters think Burnham is continuity Keir Starmer. A poll by Ipsos conducted between June the 5th and 9th found that 25% believe Mr. Burnham would be better in Downing Street than Sir Keir, who was preferred by 12%. However, 50% said there would be no difference or that neither would make a better Prime Minister, up 11 percentage points on the previous month. Due to recent statements from Andy Burnham, it's not hard to see why people think he will be the same as Starmer. Burnham admitted that he would keep the government's fiscal rules, and he backs Shabana Mahmood's immigration policy. He also said he would cut welfare to increase defence spending. So this is from The Independent. Andy Burnham says welfare cuts would fund higher defence spending as he sets out vision for number 10. He's also being dubbed Andy Boomer for this. Andy Burnham, I'll keep the triple lock and give pensioners a tax cut. Nothing for younger people, right? You're pandering to older people. I mean, I'm not saying you can't try and appeal to older people, but for decades, we've literally had policies set in a gerontocracy, I would say, and a reform of hoovered up all the older people. What about the young people, Andy? It's no difference. Lewis, what difference is there between Burnham and Starmer? And do you think the recent polling has shown that reform may actually win Makerfield?
I think the difference is just, vibes. It's just vibes and energy, which, by the way, isn't actually a bad thing. I think vibes and energy could have actually made the Labour Party a bit more successful than they've been. Despite all the criticisms, a lot of it does come down to vibes, energy, emotion, who can tell the best story, who can do the best speech, which Andy can do that. But ultimately, he's just going for the centrist approach again. Like, yeah, you can talk about, what he wants to do with, water and utilities and other things like this. But again, that's a long-term plan. It's obviously going to take a lot of money to do. But other than that, he's just basically going for that kind of centrist approach, which is he's just trying to appeal to almost like everyone and no one at the same time. You say you're going to back the pensioners and then you piss off the young people, but then you're going to, bring utilities back into public ownership, which might, make the lefties across all age groups happy. But you end up just upsetting multiple people. I think what's interesting, I still, I haven't deeply dove into the makeup and the demographics of Makerfield. I'm almost fed up of by-elections or being told that a by-election is it's a once in a century historically changing by-election. But I still almost think it's kind of sad that, the poll that I looked at today, which one did you just have up a second ago? Was it the YouGov one?
It depends which one you're talking about.
So the YouGov one that I looked at today put reform and restore together at 46. And the reason I'm bringing that up is that, we have had for this
but that was a shared poll by Reform and Reform Branding. So I don't know if it's anyway, yeah. I don't know if it's a selected poll, but
Yeah, they're all showing a little bit different. No, this was one for Makerfield, and the reason I'm bringing that up is that we have obviously seen everything from Farage over the last few months, all of his donations, all of his potential scandals that are continuing and incoming, him avoiding scrutiny. We've got this candidate who, Matt Goodwin obviously has been in the public image for much longer, and there was some stuff to scrutinize him on, but because he has a public image, he's still been somewhat careful with his words over the years, even though you can scrutinize him. The candidate there, he has said some of the most insane and horrific things, and somehow he's still polling in around 40%. I feel like again that almost shows like how badly Labour are doing, or even obviously more so Andy in a way. You think that for a Manchester seat, which yes, again does have different makeup, it's slightly more conservative, you would think he'd be absolutely walking the park with this one, but he's not. Which again is, I think it was The Independent who basically did some analysis today to basically show it's tactical voting, which could like really send him over the line at possibly like 5%, like 5 points ahead of the, two joint right-wing parties. I'm not even including the Tories in this. They're irrelevant into the analysis of what I'm trying to do here is that you've got Restore Britain who are, full of insane extremists. And then you've got Reform with Mr., I want to smell or lick Carol Vorderman's arsehole comments and everything else that he said about, women and everything else that you could just drag up. And they're still getting he's still getting 40 to 41%. I think that's actually quite telling of like where Andy actually is. His popularity came about more so in the modern era from essentially being the guy who was in opposition to the government during COVID, right? That was kind of his rise. He's obviously had some extra fame from being what is be considered a successful mayor in Greater Manchester. And it's almost easier in that way. I remember Andy Street, who was West Midlands mayor, I think. He was happy to attack the Conservatives, and he seemed like actually an all right kind of guy for a Tory. So he was able to kind of like cross the divide. Lots of other mayors have been able to attack the government and be in opposition to them because they're a mayor, but how is he going to perform if he does become a prime minister, if he does become even an MP? I can't imagine him going for the full, further to the left approach. I imagine him just being trapped in the same position that many politicians find themselves trapped in, where they just end up trying pleasing everybody and then pleasing no one, which was in theory what was the downfall of Cameron, which led to Brexit, right? He was trying to keep the right happy of his party, he's trying to keep the left happy of his party. And obviously the same with Starmer. He posed as a lefty, went to the centre, and look how hated he is. It seems like he could just simply make the same mistakes as what Starmer and other people have done when they're leading a party.
I think you make a good point about being mayor. There's a level of protection, right, where you can criticise the government. Like Andy Burnham being a Labour MP, you can't really do that because Keir Starmer and his top team, and by the way, Morgan McSweeney's back in the fold, they can just remove the whip if they want to. There is a level of protection there. And in the popularity of Andy, again, you're right, it's a recent thing because, and I find this very strange, there are some people on the left who are really like getting behind Andy. So remember, Andy Burnham was the continuity leadership candidate in 2015. He was seen as the soft left candidate, and then Jeremy Corbyn came along, and everyone saw Andy Burnham as a Blairite, LFI, PFI, and Jeremy Corbyn was the one who stood out. Now today, you've got people like, I'm excited about Burnham. What's also interesting is in British politics, it's different to America, that British politics, you don't have to be liked. It sounds very odd, right? You're asking for people's votes, but you don't need to be personally liked. I mean, Reform are the most popular party in terms of polling, yet Nigel Farage is extremely unpopular. Like, he's not that far off Keir Starmer's poll ratings. He is not liked. And that's the strange thing, right? You would assume that a party leader needs to be popular for the party to be popular, and that's not the case. People will point to Zack Polanski, and his poll ratings have really plummeted, obviously due to a lot of political attacks. But actually, I mean, recent polls have shown that the Greens are hanging on despite this potential move from Andy Burnham. I mean, they've gone up a point in YouGov on 15%. They've not completely collapsed because people look at political parties. So you could say, well, how does Reform hold up their vote with someone like Rob Kenyon? And again, I think people don't pay too much attention to their candidate, if I'm completely honest. I mean, look at Restore, for example. Restore, who, at the end of the day, maybe their polling is fabricated. Maybe they only get 3%. But let's say they get their 7%. That is based on purely Rupert Lowe. No one knows who the local candidate is. Like, at least someone can go, Andy Burnham's Labour, Robert Kenyon's reform. Even people go, yeah, that's Sarah Wakefield's, who's green, might point to her question time performance, right? But no one knows who the Restore candidate is. In fact, like the Restore party won't allow her to do interviews, which is really, really strange. Okay. Now, the strange thing here, though, is that Andy Burnham is running a local campaign. He's not running a party campaign. Like we saw the literature, it's nothing to do with Labour. So whilst I think Reform is doing it's a national thing, the appeal was just for Nigel Farage. Not many people know Robert Kenyon, and even when they do, many Reform supporters actually agree that he's a bad candidate. Like we've spoken to, like people close to Reform who are like, yeah, he's not the best candidate in the world. Now, Andy Burnham, of course, he's more popular in the party, you would think. So it's obviously all about being about his face. But now it could be a mistake because, as we've seen, his personal poll ratings might not be so good. But they don't really have a choice, right? Because they can't then start saying, oh, no, vote for the Labour Party, because you'd argue that they're far less popular than Andy Burnham.
I also saw, I think it was either today or yesterday, like internal Labour membership voting saying that I think it was like 56% of Labour members want, Starmer to step down or start the process of it. And I was thinking that's not as much as I thought it would be. And like historically, Labour Party members are always more kind of forgiving, and leaders tend to be more popular within the membership. But I kind of thought it would be higher, because when you think about the possibility of if let's just say Starmer goes ahead and does a leadership contest, which I don't think he'll do, but let's just pretend he does, you'd have at least obviously Wes Alcarns.
Al Kearns, yeah, who's on
thank you.
0%.
I'm forgetting people's names today. Al Kearns, Andy Burnham, and obviously Starmer, and who knows who else. So how are those votes going to split? Because I genuinely thought Starmer would be at least maybe in the 60s, but 56, 57. It will be interesting to see exactly what happens and how it's done, because I've seen a lot of feedback from the people who do the polling and sitting down doing the groups and stuff like that with people, that many people are seeing Andy Burnham as somewhat opportunistic here. Like obviously, if you're into politics, we know exactly what this is. So there's no perception of what our mind can change to be, right? But in this case, people are seeing Andy as a guy that they maybe they might like a little bit, and then they're seeing him take this opportunity, which could just make him seem like not like a backstabbing politician, but a bit more of a career guy, a guy who's just taking an opportunity because it's been thrown in front of him. It'll be interesting to see like how that is perceived if he does become get into the party and has to run for leader, because he is going to have to turn into a politician with collective responsibility, and he's going to be doing all the usual politician lines. Can he keep up? He has got a charm to him. He's a decent speaker. He can actually appeal to probably working class people, but can he keep up that kind of like Andy Burnham charm that he's developed over the last few years as a prime minister, when he's bound by collective responsibility by having every single problem thrown at him? But I will say this: when Keir came in and the Labour Party came in, everybody suddenly magically forgot about 14 years of Tory rule almost.
People have short memories, don't they? I mean, look at the Conservative vote. I mean, Kemi Badenoch, she's now, their party's polling second. But it just shows that people do have very short memories in politics. They're forgetting, because it's almost, in a way, a sense of nostalgia. And you would think, why would you have nostalgia in the austerity period? But I feel like things feel like they're going in the wrong direction. So I guess everyone's always going to look in the past, right? In terms of like, I'm somewhat surprised with you in terms of how, okay, Keir Starmer's not popular with the membership, but he still would command a sizable amount of votes if there was a second contest. I do wonder that, first of all, we don't really know the Labour membership figures anymore. They don't publish it. It's very likely that the Green Party now have more members. And you got to think all the lefties and maybe even like soft left people have been either kicked out of the party or left. So the people that are left in the Labour Party aren't that left wing. I also think there's maybe an element of the sunk cost fallacy. People are like, look, we voted for Keir Starmer as leader. It's only been 18 months. We're sick of elections. We're sick of leadership elections. Let's just get on with it. So that could also be it too. But you are right. I'm a bit surprised. I thought it would have been, 90% of people want Starmer gone. But let's park that there. We've got another 2 stories to get through. But as you know, before we move on to our next story, it's 2026 and it's halfway through already. Can you believe it? And we want this year to be big for Turn Left. And to be honest, it has been. Every single year there's been something new. I mean, we just interviewed Andy Burnham, potentially the next Prime Minister. So that's a good thing. Partly because we weren't known by the Labour Party. It's probably a good thing, because if they saw a lot of our content, we probably wouldn't have got the interview. But of course, we want to be far more ambitious than last year. And to really put us on the map, we are leveling up with having a part-time studio with guests in person, but we want to officially have our own space full-time, and crucially, for our contributors to be paid for the work we do. Imagine if this was our full-time. Imagine if we could create content, go live every single day, we could have interviews every single week, more Vox Pops, more documentaries, there are lots. But we can only do that with money because we ain't taking corporate money. Now, of course, your support over the years has been amazing, and of course, we are ready to take this to the next level. We rely on small donations, so if you want to be part of a media organization that seeks to destroy the oligarchs, then please head over to turnleftmedia.co.uk/support. There you can support us monthly on Patreon, or there is another link for a one-time contribution. You can also become a YouTube member for 99p, and also follow us on Twitch by going to twitch.tv/turnleftmedia. Next story. Wes Streeting has praised GB News as the plucky underdog. He has also made his leadership pitch progressive capitalism. This is what Streeting said about GB News.
The tyranny of low expectations. Lots of people wrote your station off, said it would be a total flop, you'd fall flat on your face, and yet here you are. And aren't we really glad of it on the left of politics? But there is a serious point here, which is, yes, for the avoidance of doubt, for the umpteenth time, I will be standing.
Well, there's two incorrect statements there. One, that GB News was an underdog. And two, that Streeting is on the left of politics. I mean, I find it hard to reconcile that GB News started with a £60 million investment, £20 million from Dubai company, the Legatum Institute. So much for Great British News, right? It's literally a foreign donation. Along with multi-millionaire Paul Marshall, who gave £10 million. Somehow they're an underdog. Of course, by the way, Paul Marshall was given more money. So I think they've had like £120 million in investment. They are literally just the corporate media. Now, Streeting also made his pitch for Labour leader, dubbing it progressive capitalism. We've got to be as focused on wealth creation as we are on wealth distribution. Growth and fairness aren't in competition. Growth is the only way we can tackle Britain's class, regional and generational inequalities. Only Labour can deliver both. The Greens reject growth. Their policies would see society fighting over an ever-shrinking pie. The right think the market should be left untouched. I am putting forward an agenda for progressive capitalism that backs enterprise, rewards work, takes on vested interests, and makes markets serve our shared goals of growth, fairness, and a better future for the next generation. I'm not hearing anything different from Rachel Reeves. Okay? I mean, Reeves made a series of speeches before the general election talking about an active state, saying, you know, leaving everything to the market is wrong. But 18 months in, Labour have kept the status quo on the economy. Now, all I'm hearing is that Streeting wants growth. I mean, every single politician has said that. Every single politician has said growth, 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 right? Now, he also makes a dig at the Greens being anti-growth. Look, that's just simply not true. Now, neoliberalism isn't leaving everything up to the market. It's using the government to advance the interests of capital. Rather than staying out of it, we've had decades of privatization, contracts being given to private companies, and Labour seem to think that is social democracy. I mean, who's the guy, the Labour guy who said that Thatcher was welcome in the Labour Party, Thatcherism. I forget his name. Anyway, he's like a Blairite, hardcore Blairite. And he thinks that, well, we don't have neoliberalism because the minimum wage exists. That's not an end to neoliberalism. And you hear from John McTernan, that's it, John McTernan, just remembered. You hear a lot from Labour politicians saying, we're not neoliberal because we believe in the state. And it's like, okay, liberalism means kind of getting rid of the state, okay? Neoliberalism is a bastardization of liberalism. It literally uses the state. John McTurnan, I believe, also said, well, we can't be under neoliberalism because we spent loads more money. Therefore, it must be social democracy. When government spend money, that doesn't change the nature of the economy. It doesn't mean we suddenly have social democracy. If that money is spent on advancing private capital, it's still neoliberalism, which is why when you privatize things, when you give things to private tender, that's still neoliberalism. PFI, neoliberalism, it costs the state more money because we've got to pay them back. Right? But they're going to private contractors to do the role of government. They've just outsourced government, right? Social democracy is a mixed economy, but not where the market is infused with the state. Lewis, what do you make of this pitch? And also, what do you make of Streeting calling GB News the underdog?
The underdog, backed by a UAE consortium, a multi-billion-dollar consortium, and Sir Paul Marshall, with his secret racist Twitter account. He also owns. What else does he own? Is he Spectator and Unheard as well? I always get mixed. I think it's Spectator and Unheard. Yeah, real underdogs, massive media moguls. Obviously, he's just trying to, pitch and please to everyone the same way. It's not the same thing, but how every pretty much prime minister has, crawled to Murdoch, essentially, before they were elected. Famously, Tony Blair and Alistair Campbell, I think, travelled all the way to Australia right before the election to meet up with Murdoch. I think that's the right story. What's also more interesting about this idea of trying to please GB News is, I haven't looked into this too deeply yet, but I will be, as you all will know. But when I was looking at the new donations that came through a few weeks ago, they got released 2 weeks ago now by the Electoral Commission. There is still a lot of money flowing into Labour Together. And it's some of the old donors and some of the new ones. And I can't imagine that money going anywhere else to support anyone else but Wes Streeting, because that's what it's always done, right? It's always gone for the blue side of the party, the Blairite side of the party. It's Alison Phillips who's currently now in charge of it, because it was your favorite person, Jonathan Ashworth, for a little while. And then Alison Phillips has now taken over, former editor of the Mail, and they obviously have things planned. They would not be funding this in the same way that they were pre-Starmer if they didn't have plans up their sleeves, unless maybe it's going towards good old Al, our soldier, who could potentially be like a underdog, but the guy who appeals to everybody. But there is money going on in the background. Now, Wes Streeting has always done the thing where he tries to charm essentially anyone that he's in front of, regardless of who it is, regardless of what topic it is. So I don't even think it's necessarily even just trying to him just specifically trying to court GB News. He just likes to try and please everyone. But you know what? He probably could have won more points by going after them rather than actually even trying to cozy up to them and trying almost like a different tactic, especially in this moment now. I don't advocate for politicians specifically weaponizing things, especially because it's a leadership competition that's probably going to happen soon. But it would have been the perfect opportunity to call out GB News, right? For everything that they've been egging on, the fact that they've helped stoke these riots, in my opinion, and many other people's, their disproportionate reporting on the aspects of not just this riot, but previous riots. I did some research just to go back to Southport just the other day, and I found out that they covered the Muslims on the street in opposition to the Southport attackers more than they did than the Southport attackers. So I think it would have been a perfect time to, maybe go after that and win some points over. But it's just what Wes Streeting does. If you were to talk about a I can never say that word, continuity person, it is going to be Wes Streeting more than anyone, I think. But he's just trying to rebrand. I feel like the term progressive capitalism sounds like something that came out of Labour Together. Like that's something that they've come up with in a little drawing room somewhere. But it's just who Wes Streeting is. But a lot of people see him as a bit of a snake. He's got that reputation. That's not even just my opinion. That's how he's perceived. So will he continue to be seen that way, or will he be able to, charm the establishment with the potential backing of Labour Together? Not that I can prove that they're backing him, but the money is flowing in the background.
That does sound like a Labour Together thing, doesn't it? Progressive capitalism. But it is the same crap, just reheated. We always hear, we are going to inspire wealth creators, but we're also going to look after the workers. Now, of course, I'm not expecting a Marxist government anytime soon, and this is what Rachel Reeves said, you could be pro-work and pro-business, but it's just fundamentally true that, business and workers are literally at lockheads. There is nothing in each other's common favor, right? It's the more you get paid for your job, the less profits for business. It's very, very simple. Again, I don't expect them to come out with a Marxism analysis, but I am sick and tired of hearing the same thing rehashed. Like, I've heard Keir Starmer, I've heard Rachel Reeves say, we must use the power of the state. We want to end neoliberalism. And they seem to think they've literally ended neoliberalism, but they haven't. And when we spoke to Andy Burnham, at least he spoke about neoliberalism a lot more. I don't know what that means to Labour politicians anymore. No, Andy Burnham
Maybe we're
said
being
to
a bit
us
too
that
harsh. This is progressive trickle down economics now.
it's trickle down economics progressively, where progressively the rich get richer. But I don't know if these people know what it really means. We say, yeah, neoliberalism is being really, really bad. We need to end it. Okay, well then end it. Right. The first thing you need to do is kick out privatization. Get our public services under public control. That the British people control the things that were ours. Right. It was stolen from us. That's one thing. Labour could, do something that they were literally built to do, which is restore the power of trade unions. What about all the legislation from the previous Tory government on restricting trade unions? Why not do that? Oh no, Keir Starmer fired Sam Tarry for going on the picket line. It's all just meaningless crap. I mean, I do take a point though about Wes Street, and he is just trying to be like a charmer. But I watched the video on the GB News website. So I thought, I'll have a little scroll down and see the comments. Was anyone won over? No. Everyone was like, no, Wes Streeting's awful anyway. So it's just like, you're not winning anyone over. You probably would have done better by calling it out. At least if you call out GB News and the rhetoric, even if that kind of makes you personally unpopular a little bit, it's really important that politicians call it out in the mainstream because they're getting away with murder. GB News is becoming more and more and more extreme and unafraid to do so. But of course, Wes Streeting is technically in a popularity contest. He wants to win. But I would argue, though, and you probably would agree with me, he's running as Labour leader, not as Prime Minister. He might actually get more support. He might say, I think Keir Starmer's been weak in calling out the right wing. The right wing are scumbags. At least something. Better than fucking progressive capitalism, I think.
But it's funny that, the Conservatives get their first, essentially black leader who seemingly hates black people. And yes, I'm saying that because she just completely downplays even the existence of racism, therefore hurting the black community. But we might potentially get a gay prime minister who hates, half the LGBTQ community.
Yeah.
What's next?
Literally. I mean, I think James Murray, who's the new health secretary, he's also gay, and also he's reneged on trans rights. He's like, it was a mistake to call trans women women and trans men men, and people are like, oh, like we're getting this like fake ass representation, but it means nothing. I don't care if there's more people in colour politics. I don't care if there's queer people in politics if they don't represent these people.
Yeah, next they'll be regressing on Section 28. Wasn't that bad, was it? Section 20. It was just, we can't speak about it in schools. But obviously we'll see what happens. I'm almost like fed up of almost like the speculative idea of who's going to run, who's not going to run, what are they going to do. I still feel like that, Kearns hasn't announced anything that he wants to do, but he said that he will do it.
Oh, but he's a veteran though, isn't he? So, all he needs to do is say, I served in the army. That's his whole campaign. Isn't it?
Yeah, he's going to be centrist dad. I still don't feel like anybody's really offering anything that's going to significantly change the country. I think the closest person would be Andy in terms of renationalization. That's going to get a lot of lefty people happy.
But that's the thing. He doesn't support renationalization. He's very clever, right? He's saying public control. That just means more public committees. Does that mean a fucking quango? Like I'm telling you right now, he doesn't support nationalization.
He wants to do like a 10-year plan or something now.
Well, again, he flip-flops, right? I don't know what... That's the problem. We don't know what Andy Burnham's going to show up, but he has said public control. And given the way that Andy...
be back in the control of the public by 2050.
Even that's probably too radical for Labour together, but we just don't know. And I'm gonna say he doesn't support nationalisation. Unless someone comes up and says, no, straight up nationalisation, as in actual nationalisation, not some public control where... we put out a questionnaire and we hear the thoughts of the public. It's meaningless.
We'll have to see what happens.
Yes. Okay, right. It's coming to 8:15, and let's squeeze in our final story. The Daily Mail has called out the neo-Nazi problem in Restore Britain. The paper features Restore on 2 front pages, the Mail on Sunday on the 14th of June and the following day, and it says, Restore activists at white supremacy summit and Restore is the new home for neo-Nazis. The paper claims supporters canvassing for Restore in Makerfield had attended an event that hosted calls for a white-only Europe. Not surprising at all. Restore is the home of literal Nazis. Among Lowe's loudest cheerleaders is Steve Laws, a former migrant hunter who cemented his reputation as Britain's biggest racist last year. The influencer is notorious for his relentless pursuit of total remigration, the ethnic cleansing of anyone with non-white heritage from Britain. The anti-Semite has also denied the Holocaust, claiming he will be straight behind the Nazi regime in the 1930s instead of Hitler. He's very much a misunderstood politician. I'd say a lot of the stuff that he advocated for in the German people will be wonders for our people right now. This was his response in the race riots in 2024. Moss got targeted, lol, who cares? Misdirected in this instance, maybe? Justifies. Yes, fuck 'em. Give 'em hell, lads. Now, in the article, it also states this. Among those campaigning for Restore in the constituency on Saturday was Callum Barker, a hardened neo-Nazi who was at the extremist remigration summit in Portugal 2 weeks ago. Barker has posted images that reference 1488, shorthand for a 14-word white nationalist slogan, and 88, which stands for Hail Hitler, H being the 8th letter of the alphabet. The Daily Mail also documented another party member. Restore Party member James Munro, on the left, defended this picture on the grounds it was a different time. Yet he posed for it around 10 years ago. So, has the newspaper that famously backed the Nazis in the 1930s suddenly grown a conscience? Of course not. The Daily Mail said, anyone who really cares about Britain won't vote Restore. Instead, they actually asked voters to back reform. I doubt the Daily Mail really cares about the politics of Restore. They just don't want the vote to be split on the right. Lewis, you spoke about this story before. What do you make of it all?
So, yes, a Daily Mail journalist reached out to me because she became aware that I knew some of these characters, some of them a bit more intimately than others. A lot of these people have come up on TikTok, and they've been on this platform for quite a while now. These characters are interesting because they've got the aspect of the anti-Semitism definitely down when it comes to the white supremacy side, and they pretty much reject anybody who's got any association with anything Jewish. So what a lot of the public don't understand, our audience will, because they're more into politics than we do, is that people just think of like right-wing and like the anti-immigration law and just kind of like be like, oh, reform voters, and yeah, Rupert Lowe's upcoming. But there is a huge section of the online right, and I think it is the majority of the anti-immigration lot on Twitter who are now way further right than Tommy Robinson. They think he's, captured by Jews, Israel, whatever it might be. Like, yeah, he's got funding that's connected to them. He's got funding connected to Russia and the UAE, allegedly. But they are pretty much full-blown ethno-nationalists. They don't espouse fascism, so if you want to full-on call them actual neo-Nazis, I don't know, but definitely white supremacists, definitely ethno-nationalists, and a lot of them hang around on TikTok. One of the guys featured in the article, I'm not going to say his name because he loves being featured in things. He came on TikTok live. I was on a panel the day after that Sunday Mail article came out, which he was featured in, and yeah, he was upset. And I spoke to him literally for 2 minutes, and I was like, what do you expect in these situations when you've been online for so much and they're going to, find these things? The Daily Mail actually did a crap article. I didn't actually like the article that they put out because it was actually a bit crappy. The reason that I'm saying that is because if they really wanted to go deep on somebody and some of these characters, they could find a whole lot more than what they featured. And the reason that I'm saying that is because it feels like they've almost like rushed to get this article out, which goes to the point of they're attacking Restore not because they've seemingly grown a conscience, but because they won't be able to manage the political influence that they have and the right-wing media have in this country, right? If we have a persistent three-way split between Tories to Reform to Restore, that's completely and utterly unmanageable. So one part of the competition needs to be eliminated, because it's actually, even though you can see in the 2024 election how Farage essentially did potentially, if not almost completely handed Starmer his victory, depending on how you want to tear apart the polls and reanalyze what would have happened if Reform didn't actually run in the way that they did. They can't manage that with a three-way split. So they need to get rid of part of the competition. And it's also, again, worth noting that Lord Rothermere's wife did donate £50,000 to the Reform Party. And people who hang around within those circles, from my investigation of Lord Rothermere's wife and the kind of like socialite circles that they operate in, seem to be somewhat interconnected to other Reform donors from my little investigations that I've been doing. And it is very interesting because there's been so many scandals related to Reform. And yes, the Mail has reported on some of them, but they haven't reported on that many. And can anybody really think of a time outside of this current cycle where one of the stories about Reform has come about where it's a neo-Nazi councillor, somebody who praised Hitler, or somebody who did something completely and utterly horrific, and then it's not on the front page of the Mail? Why are they choosing to do this now? I can't see any other motivation for this other than them trying to essentially get rid of Restore or hurt them and damage them to such a point where they can go back to making Farage and Kemi Badenoch and Reform and Conservatives fight amongst each other, therefore maybe moving the Conservatives further to the right. And going back to that system, which I think they were kind of liking in a way. This threat from Restore does face something massive because they can't control Rupert, they can't control Twitter, they have some influence over it in terms of the story they put out, and that ends up on places like X, but it is a massive, massive slap to their power if Restore continues to rise in its success, because it means the right wing will never get back into power in the next generation.
Yeah, you are completely right. If they cared about this story, they would have dug deep. But of course, they won't. They want a surface level story put out before the by-election because they just want Reform to win. I mean, essentially, if you want to grift, Reform Party is for you. It's the corporate party. I mean, you could argue Restore are less of a grift because they are hardcore extremists. And there are a lot of multimillionaires and billionaires who probably don't even like a lot of Reform rhetoric and don't have a problem with immigration. But they know, like, Reform are the coup party. Now, I know that all political parties take corporate donations, of course. You know, the Labour Party does. And of course, sometimes, well, a lot of time policies is geared towards big business over the working class because our system is broken. But like Reform is a different beast. Like they genuinely, I believe, want to coup this country and carve it up piece by piece and give it to corporations. Like at least the Tories and Labour will keep the system as it is. Labour will try and sprinkle some stuff for the working class, but not enough, but also work for the corporate class. That thing's true. But I would say Reform want to carve up our system, carve up this country, and give it to the corporations. Restore, they may not even want that. They are just so extreme that it's probably harder to grift. But you're absolutely right that this is all about getting Reform to win. But let's go to another part of the story. Reform councillor and London Mayor candidate Layla Cunningham spoke to The Telegraph and explained she has been receiving racism from Restore supporters.
I've had racist abuse from Restore voters, and I know people are going to say, oh, I've had it from Reform voters, like you say, but I've had it the most since they've come into play. There's a
what
meme
kind of stuff?
Well, so there's a meme going around that every time, a lot of times I've seen, I could show it to you, it's basically me in a wheelbarrow, dead, being pushed by Rupert Lowe, saying, deport, Allahu Akbar, deport, and I'm dead. And that's going around. And what was scary is that somehow my mum saw it and she was bawling her eyes out. I get, every time I post something, I said, deport, you're not British. They have an issue with the kids of immigrant like myself, or immigrants who have become British. They have a problem. Somehow they don't, I'm not saying Rupert does, but people from that party seem to think that I'm not British. And I take huge offence to that.
Now, this video has been making the rounds with many people point out the fact that there are reform supporters who have been racist, and some of them have moved to Restore because the likes of Layla, and people have been like reform supporters have directly been racist to Layla. But did you notice that Layla said that people are going to say, "Have you had it from reform voters?" I mean, is that not an omission, Lewis? Is this just one big irony?
It's the definition of the leopard ate my face, if you know the meme. It's like, obviously I don't want to downplay actual racism that's been put towards her, but it is a case of like, you are a part of the system that allowed this to happen, right? People were pushed so far to the right in many ways by rhetoric, by, you know, I think was it yesterday or the day before, it was 10 years since thingy, oh God, I couldn't remember Kim Leadbeater's name. I'm so tired today. I'm literally forgetting the name of the MP who was assassinated while I'm invoking her name. Thank you, Joe Cox. I'm blanking out today, guys. That's the third name I've messed up today. And, you know, they were having a conversation yesterday. I think it was on the news agents. And she was basically talking about how, you know, we had this moment of thinking about how the rhetoric is used and the heat at the time of when that happened, everything from Brexit to all these other issues that were going on, and how basically since Brexit, we've always just lived under this hotness of constant vilified rhetoric that was put out and started by the Brexit campaign. Now, that's not the only cause, but that is kind of like a pinpoint that you can put out there when things basically got heated up and just never really calmed back down. Things have heated up multiple times, but they always kind of mellowed out. They haven't really stopped since then. And ever since then, it's been a race of like, who can be the most racist, who can come up with the most stupid idea, which is going to, you know, get rid of immigrants or reduce immigration, leave the ECHR, and, you know, let you know, the Daily Mail, very relevant. You know, what was the famous headline where it was like the, you know, betrayers of our country or whatever it is for the judges in relation to an immigration related case? Like, all these types of stuff, they have helped us get there to that point. And they are a part of that. And now those people have been, you know, in a way massively captured by a system, which is, again, I will always tie this back to X because that's where I've seen it happen. They've become now so racist that they've moved away from a kind of quasi kind of ethno-nationalism where, you know, they never really truly wanted the country to be fully white under a kind of like, they never really saw reform that way, never really saw Farage that way. They just wanted to be a bit more white, you know, and kind of stay there. Whereas what Rupert is essentially representing, or at least what he is attracting, is white supremacy. I think he's, you know, he's obviously he puts out stuff out there which is obviously it stokes a lot of things, and he doesn't put stuff out there which is, you know, like, you know, any pictures of him wearing a white hood or anything like that. But that is who he is definitely attracting through the rhetoric that he is saying, the people that he's reposting. And obviously, I don't really want to give it air because it's not really being covered, but here's a grooming gangs inquiry, which was released yesterday, which is just absolute bullshit. It's a complete and utter dog whistle, which is just filled with so much bullshit just to demonize an entire community for their own means and ends, that all of that is just a result of where people like Farad got us to, where Boris got us to, where many other players within the system got us to. And she thought, you know, she kind of came onto the scene a couple of years ago as a slightly more prominent figure. Now she's become even more prominent. She thought she could jump onto this and it was just going to stay the same. It wasn't going to keep accelerating towards that position that the system that she's jumped onto to take advantage of has now moved past her. And we are in a phase where a lot of these people are openly calling themselves white supremacists, where we have people who want to deport multiple generations back. It's beyond, we're going to get rid of illegal immigrants in 5 years and set up a deportation scheme. These people, from TikTok 2X to the people who are featured in the Daily Mail, they want multiple generations being sent back.
One of the figures cited in the rape inquiry was that 250,000 white women were raped by Muslim men. Completely fabricated figure, completely made up. I had a little small dig into it. I think we should probably go through it actually. And just, I don't know if it's going to be a feature on a show, but we should definitely dig it up and fact check. But some people have already done some fact check. Half the shit in it is just completely made up. A lot of the data is from one person's anecdotal evidence. Like, there's literally no data. That's why it's not getting mainstream coverage. A lot of people are like, it's not getting mainstream coverage because, you know, they want to cover up grooming gangs. It's like, no, it's because it's just full of crap. When it comes to reform, though, they would listen to your answer and say, but okay, Restore are the racist party, but Reform aren't the racist party because all we're against is illegal immigration. That's it. That's a completely different thing. And it's like, well, the thing is, though, one, the existence of Reform has allowed Restore to thrive because they've moved the Overton window. And two, it's not just about legal immigration because Reform have quite literally said they're going to go for those on indefinite leave to remain, fully legal, but they've moved the rhetoric. So Ella Braverman has been saying there's anti-white racism, and you've had Robert Jenrick, who said that basically no one from Sudan should be able to come here after what happened in Belfast. And it's like, that's just straight up racism. You're blaming an entire nation, entire group of people for the crime of one disgusting scumbag. And to say, yeah, we should just like ban Sudanese people. Like, that's the shit we get from the BNP, but Reform's allowed to have been allowed to normalize that. So when people say, oh, you're smearing Reform as racist, okay, Restore racist, Reform just care about illegal immigration, it's crap. And illegal immigration is always a dog whistle to move on to migration and ultimately black and brown migration. That's it. If you're someone who's obsessed with illegal immigration, you're not just obsessed with illegal immigration. You're obsessed with just immigration in general. And the remigration ideology spouted by Restore supporters is the total remigration of those who are not white. So if you're an immigrant who comes from a black and brown family, probably extends to like Polish people as well. They were famously targeted by the Nazis. Gone. So it's just full on Nazism. We managed to cover 4 stories in 1 hour. I'm super impressed. Very detailed, but also very packed. And I think it's a good time to go on to our comments. Let's bring in Callum Taylor, who's at the helm of our producer. Hello.
Hello. Good show as always.
Hello. It's been superb,
Hello.
I think.
It is a good show, and it ran very well to time as well. And I can't even take any credit for that because I didn't have to whisper in your ear once to tell you to move on.
There you go.
Today, that's why.
Say again.
It's because Curtis is in charge today.
That's what it is. Great comments as always. Let's start with the super chats. Michael's gifted a Turn Left membership. Thank you for that one, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
Benji has gifted 10 Turn Left memberships.
Yes, Benji.
Thank you for those.
Thank you, Benji.
And Andrew Lucas sent a £2 super chat and said, join me reporting TAP for terrorist recruitment.
True. Oh my God, he tried recruiting, didn't he? That's a good one. I like that.
Don't know how it would work out, mind you, but you know.
I want to steal that.
Roger Goldfinch Electrical has said the word is entrapment.
Yes. That's could. Do you not even think that could potentially fall under that?
I mean, potentially, he's trying to.
No, I
get
don't think so
crime.
legally.
No,
Yeah.
it wouldn't hold up probably, but still, it's fucked.
It is pretty shocking.
The best
see
response
from
would have just been, but you're supporting a state which is literally accused by like 10 of the biggest charities in the world of committing genocide.
Yeah.
Or something like that. You support a state that killed like a 7-week-old baby just a few weeks ago, a 7-month-old baby.
Yeah, but Israel are our friends, so it's okay.
They're our greatest allies.
They're our greatest ally.
Some fun comments from the top of the show before we get into the meaty stuff. Spexter said, OMG, they are basically on time. Someone check hell is on fire still quick.
Yeah, it's a bit warm down here, actually.
Yeah, I thought so. Michael said, Curtis is such a boomer. He didn't realise who he managed to interview in Makerfield. I'll allow Cal. He's younger than me. To be fair, Curtis isn't that much older than I am.
And also, hold on a second. Does that not make you more of a boomer because I was too young to recognise him? Because I asked my girlfriend, I said, do you know who Reverend and the Makers, or whatever they're called?
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, I know them, but they're like a blast from the past, like apparently like 90s, early noughties. So actually, Michael, I think you're the boomer.
Do you remember when we interviewed Faiza Shaheen and Ronnie Sullivan was there? We interviewed him. So I know absolutely nothing about snooker. Is it snooker? Is snooker? I was gonna say, is it pool? Snooker. I know nothing about these things.
I would have said it was pool.
And
So.
I had no idea like how he's not just like a snooker player. He's like the snooker player.
Did you
Like,
not
he
know
is
who he was at all?
massively famous, and I had no idea. And I was just like, "Yeah, what do you think about this, Ronnie?" I had no idea who he was really. Like I knew. He was a
Yeah,
snooker
man.
player,
Like
that's it.
he, because to be fair, I was a big snooker fan when I was a kid. But then as I got older, I didn't rewatch it. But like that's just he's kind of like Tyson Fury. You don't have to be into boxing to know who he is. You know what I mean? Or Mike Tyson. You could call him the Mike Tyson.
I'm just
the
more
snooker
happy
player.
that Brie Vanderkamp from Desperate Housewives follows me. That's all I'm happy
Who?
about. Exactly.
Okay.
Brie Vanderkamp from Desperate Housewives.
I'll ask.
Very big. She's very big
Not a
pro-Palestinian
clue.
activist.
Okay. Oh, okay. Cool.
But yeah, and in our defence, I mean, we should have clocked on when they said that they were there to provide music, but we didn't even.
I mean, he had his
it didn't
guitar
even
in his
occur
hand.
to
He
me.
was dressing well. They were literally about to play music for Andy Burnham, but I was just like, oh, I thought it was a local person they just
He
hired
was
out. I mean, maybe
very
he is
tall,
local,
though. Very tall.
but he was tall. He was.
Specs also said Curtis looks like he's about to start singing when I'm cleaning windows.
Why?
Someone else put in the chat Curtis Formby. So
Curtis Formby. I'm very happy about this. I don't give a fuck what you guys think.
it's a
I wear
nice
what I
player.
want. I wear what you want. I wear what I
Some
want.
love from Pancho Sanders as well about the Makerfield interviews. They were great. Thank you guys. Thank you. And
I think that was our
big,
best box spot.
Is there anybody actually in the constituency who's by any chance watching or in the chat? I'd be very curious because we've heard all the reporting about like how absolutely fed up everybody is of the by-election. I'd be interested.
Well, we did actually get a message from Graham who mentioned this in the Discord, but was chatting to my family who are in Ashton in Makerfield. They reckon Andy Burnham will win it, but they're voting for him despite being mostly reform leaning normally, which was interesting.
Well, I did say the other day, I was like, I wonder how many reform-leaning people will vote for Andy Burnham to get rid of Starmer.
Yeah, and we sort of opined at that, didn't we, as to how unusual it was that it's basically vote Labour to get rid of Starmer, whereas that was what Reform were running with in Gorton and Denton, vote Reform to get rid of Starmer, but actually a vote for Reform this time around is a vote to keep Starmer. So
I don't think I've ever in my entire life had someone knock on the door to canvass me. Of course, it
me
doesn't
neither.
happen. It doesn't happen now because I live in a flat.
I was going to
and
say
happened.
that probably
But
makes
even
a
when
change,
I was like living with parents, not a single person have ever knocked on my door. It feels like the YouGov
Your
polls.
parents already vote though, because they do have data on like people who are likely engaged and like
That's true.
sometimes they'll be like, we don't need to go there.
Yeah,
Let's
if
go
you're
to
not on the
somewhere else
register,
that's
they
just not
won't
as
go.
engaged.
Well, I've lifted different houses and never had it, but it just feels like when YouGov come out with a poll and you get a bunch of people like, they never asked me.
We're probably labeled as terrorists on their system by half the parties.
Maybe. I mean, according to Labour, you
Prescribed
fucking
dress.
sneeze, you're a terrorist. I mean, turn left's getting prescribed, so
Are we?
Well,
That's
I wouldn't
that's
be
news to
surprised.
me. Did we get a letter? Speaking of terrorists, Specs has pointed out the average terrorist in the UK is now a 60 to 70-year-old white woman, based on the number of arrests.
the most dangerous people.
Which, I mean, yeah. Michael's also said Turn Left having a direct impact on Burnham's ratings with their interview. Yeah, that news came out after our interview. It was definitely us that
It did,
did
didn't
that.
it? It's because you asked him about Gaza and he was like, well, too busy to,
It's terrible.
do an
It's
election.
It's terrible what's happening. I'm a bit busy right now to think about
I'm a bit busy.
In fairness, I do think we should be. I think we should be fair about the fact that we only got the Burnham interview because Burnham was happy to speak to us.
Yeah. Like,
Everybody
it was-
around him was like, nope,
Yeah.
nope.
He was happy to do it, but
And he was
his
like, yeah,
press
but
team
they're
were like, no.
here. Why not? Like, they're here. Let's do it. So
Yeah, but he probably but then when you asked him about Gaza, he probably went, "Fucking hell, wish I hadn't said it right now." But
there was a moment watching it back when he sort of like takes a gulp and you see his whole
you
head
see
move
his
forward and
posture
sort of like,
change from relaxed to like
"Oh, okay,
put his
you're asking me
arms in
this,
front of him.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay."
yeah.
I still cannot believe to this day that Owen Jones actually managed to get like 10 minutes with Luke Akehurst. Like I still can't.
That's so good.
I cannot believe he said yes or like just didn't run away.
To
Yeah,
be
it didn't
fair,
go
I think
particularly well,
Luke
though, did it?
Akehurst, though, I think he's actually the kind of person who was willing to debate. Like he sucks and his views suck, but like I don't think I think he's always been up for like debating.
I didn't think he could get any more red, but he did during the interview.
I mean, it was terrible. He looked awful. But
Just on another one on the Burnham thing and about the Makerfield video, Poodlefish Girl said, saw the Makerfield video and thought it was great. Only question is, was Cal well behaved off cam? Did he close every door behind him? Did I close every door behind me, Curtis? Can he confirm that I left no cafe doors open this time?
Yeah, I think you're good.
Thanks.
But to be fair, who cares if it would have only been Labour reform, right? So
True. QVC Owl has said the 10 left report from Makerfield was just about the best of the myriad Vox Pop style reports from up there. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
I genuinely think we did a smashing job. And I think ours were very different to other outlets who are a bit bigger. Especially to go into the pub. That was a really good part of it.
It was, and I
Enjoyed
think
that.
what was and getting invited into a reform voter's house, which was
Yeah, that was wild.
Also unexpected.
I've just realised though, I wonder if like Matt Goodwin's cursing a little bit, because if it's only like reforms at 40-ish and Andy's at like 45, 40, there's only a 5-point difference ish. I wonder if Matt Goodwin could have won it, because he hasn't got all the shit against him. Well, he has got shit against him, but nothing like Kenyon. That'd be interesting.
Because I honestly think that no, Matt Goodwin wouldn't have, because to be honest, I think me and Callum we spoke. To be fair, we spoke to this like head of comms guy from Reform, and he was like, speaking to a lot of people. Not a lot of people actually gave a shit about Question Time. They're
He
like,
said,
oh, he's
he
like a
said
normal
they
bloke.
counted. He said they counted 4 good clips for
I
him.
think it's 6 clips.
And yeah, I think it was 6 in total. I think they said they got 6 clips, and 4 of them were. I think they said 4 were good and 2 of them weren't. When based on like their analysis of it. I mean, I don't know what 4 clips they were watching that they thought came off well. I mean, one of them was the attack on Sarah about the immigration and housing, and the fact that if you've got a load of people coming into the country, obviously that's going to have an effect on housing. Which, while I don't think that Rob Kenyon particularly came off well, but I think that Sarah could have answered it a bit better. Graham said here, classic Curtis move, pretending to be doing work for Turn Left, but boozing instead. First Amsterdam, and now Makerfield.
I mean, to be fair, I had 1 pint.
You did, and actually, you were offered more, and we said no.
Oh yeah, I was good. I was like, fuck. I'll get to the point. We spent 7-8 hours out there. I was getting to the point. I'm fucking tired. Let's just chill out here. But we had a job to do for you guys, and we did it. And tell you what, we left at the perfect time, because we went to that lady's house inside her back garden to interview her about reform, and then bumped into Andy Burnham. It was a perfect time to leave.
Perfect time. On the point of Andy Burnham, there was a bit of discourse going backwards and forwards in the chat between Michael and Arthur Bumblefoot, which was about what Starmer has said. Starmer wants to ask Andy Burnham potentially to play a significant part in government. Arthur said that a Labour source told a local Manchester paper that Andy will refuse a cabinet job if elected, to which Michael responded saying Starmer has said he should at least wait till the mayor election is over, and there was some question as to whether that was in relation to forming a leadership, calling for a leadership coup, if that's the word or not. And actually, I think I was thinking about this earlier. I think if Burnham does win tomorrow and he does decide to stand for leadership, well, firstly there was a bit of question over whether Burnham will actually call a leadership challenge, because what he said on Question Time was if there is a leadership challenge, he will stand.
I mean, he was probably being coy. But also, Wes Streeting. This is what's really odd, though, because Wes Streeting keeps going, I am standing for leader. I was like, yeah, but there's no leadership election.
However,
who's starting it?
But what's even more interesting, though, is that I think Starmer makes a good point. If this is something that's been said, is that there is going to, if Burnham wins, there will be another by-election, for goodness sake. But there will be another one, and I think we're going to have to. I think if we were
wait, sorry, if Labour wins what?
If Andy Burnham wins in Makerfield tomorrow, there's going to be another by-election, because we're going to have the mayoral by-election in Manchester.
Yeah, but obviously not a parliamentary seat.
Not a parliamentary one, no,
Yeah.
but it's still another by-election. And what that is going to mean is that, given the Greens did so well across the centre of Manchester in the local elections, the Greens are very likely to throw a hell of a lot at that, especially given they've sat back. So from
the voting has changed to Do you know the name of it?
I can't remember what they said.
I don't think it favours the Greens. In fact, a lot of people are saying that it's good chance.
It's preferential. It's preferential voting. But point being is that from Labour's perspective, Labour don't want to lose the mayoralty. And I think they would be willing to lose it potentially if Burnham can save the day at the next election. But they are going to want to hold on to that mayoral position.
But
as much
in
as
their
possible.
view, they were probably happy to give it the mayoralty if it means Andy Burnham wins, becomes prime minister.
Yes,
they would be like, yeah, that's better.
Where I'm going with this is that from Labour's point of view, I can understand why Labour would want to be able to focus all of their energy into a mayoralty election before they worry about fighting internal elections on who the next leader of the Labour Party is going to be. And I think actually if Andy Burnham cares about Labour, he's going to make a very difficult choice, especially if he's going to be the one that triggers it, as to whether or not he should wait until after the mayor by-election. On the flip side, if there's an ongoing leadership debate, an election while the Manchester mayoral race is ongoing, that might encourage more people in Manchester to vote for Labour because they can see that Starmer's on his way out. Whereas by holding back and not calling that election for the leadership, locals in Manchester might go, well, fuck this, we've still got Starmer. Andy Burnham's an MP, but we've still got Starmer, so why would we vote Labour? Why would we give Labour our vote? We can't trust them. So I think Burnham's got a very difficult game to play in terms of what happens next if he does win tomorrow night. But I can understand why Labour would want him to wait until after that mayoral race.
I'm just looking at the thing now because I did see something earlier about how the way the votes were changing in Manchester, but like the way the Telegraph's made the article today, because only Telegraph has really reported on it, it's like they've framed it as the Lords have rushed through an amendment to this bill to change the way things are voted in Manchester, when this has been part of like a legislative framework for quite a while now. Typical Telegraph. I might be wrong. I just had a quick look at it, but again, the Telegraph.
Really
it might have been, but was not sat on the sidelines for a while, and then the by-election thought, oh, we better fucking get it through. You could still maybe say that.
Well, I think it was the guy at Reform HQ that mentioned it to us when we were out chatting to people the other day, and he framed it. He framed it as it had been rushed through in that same way. So it is interesting. I know there's been a big legislative shake-up in terms of elections. It's part of the boundary changes and everything that the Conservatives brought in, and extra mayoral races in different parts of the country, etc. Jim Speaks said, every time Turn Left go on location for an election, they should visit pubs that aren't rough pubs.
Well, this is what I want to do. I don't know if I can able to do it this year, but next year, I want to make a documentary where I go up and down the country and visit different pubs, and we speak to pub owners and see if they agree on things and disagree with things, like a Turn Left road trip for pubs, because I really want there to be a big Turn Left pub crawl. I want it to be a big left-wing campaign to save the pub. I do not want that narrative being taken by the right, because the small business narrative has been taken by the right wing. We need to take that back. And we also need to save the pub. Like, I want the Greens to come up with a massive campaign saying save the pub. But maybe Turn Left can start that, and left-wing groups and parties leapfrog off of it. But that's something I would love to do.
By the way, is anybody staying up for the by-election? I'm not this time.
I possibly will, because I'm sad and I always stay up for these things.
Sorry, Graham then said this. You're not helping your case, Edgar. It's my point stand. True. Oh God, yeah. Fair enough. I mean, look, I love the pub. Term pub. I love the pub. I'm a classic guy,
You are. Although I did have to pry you from a bar stool in an earlier pub. Although it was, and you weren't even drinking. You were just comfortable.
There's nothing better than sitting on a bar stool with your arm on the bar,
You're just so at home in there. But no, just an interesting. I just thought this was that one's gonna has asked, what's the highest donation Turn Left would take before saying it's too risky? Genuinely curious. I mean, I'm gonna be asking for about $6,000 soon to help finish the Green Party documentary from the Gorton and Denton campaign. So I mean, if anyone's got $6,000 lying around,
I mean, to be fair, what is? I don't know. I mean,
but too risky for what? What do you mean?
Like, if anyone would turn around and just give Turn Left a donation,
I think it's they just have to be unconditional. If people want to
Yeah,
donate to Turn Left, they
I don't
can,
think
but
there should.
you
If
don't get
someone,
anything in return for it other than you get.
well, like
you
if
to see our
someone,
content,
what if I don't know, Lewis won the lottery and then said, "I'm going to give £1 million to Turn Left." We can't be like, that's too high of a donation.
No.
But it's the conditions, isn't it? Right? Because if someone said, "I'm going to give you £500, but you need to run the story," we're like, "No, you're right."
Yeah.
But like, if a rich person went, "I'm going to give you £1 million completely unconditional," I mean, that's obviously never going to happen. If it's unconditional, it's unconditional.
Well, unless one of us wins the lottery,
What's the name of the guy, the Brexit guy in Parliament who's always shouting?
He's always
Brexit guy in
shouting.
Parliament who's always shouting. That could be.
Curtis knows exactly what's his name. Loads of people will know his names in the comments. He's famous, but I've forgotten his name.
Oh, Labour. He's the bowl saver.
Anyway, if I won the lottery, I would be paying multiple people like him just to follow like Nigel Farage around the country all day.
Oh,
They
wait,
would
are
have
you
their
talking
own
about the
private
person?
helicopter to follow
Are you talking
Farage.
about a person in Parliament? Or are you talking about the Steve Bray guy?
Steve Bray? That's
Steve Bray. Yeah.
Because you said in Parliament,
You
so
said
I
in
thought you were
Parliament.
I thought you were talking about.
Parliament. Come on, that's specific enough.
outside Parliament. Stop Brexit, Steve. What about him? What was the question?
No, anyway, if I
You
won the
pay loads
lottery,
of people to
the
follow.
first thing I would do
That
is
was a
get
waste of
lots
money.
Steve Brays. Huh?
Oh, instead, okay, that's a waste of money.
No,
Like, I'm going to
it's
pay someone like
hilarious.
Steve Ray to follow people around. Whereas if you gave us money, we could have a full-time studio.
Yeah, but Curtis, if he wins like the Euro Millions and he wins like 137 million, he can donate £1 million to Turn Left and pay and still pay Steve Bray to follow people around with a megaphone. So it's a win-win. We can do both. I've just had a message from my better half who's just spotted on Facebook, I think, that Hugh Grant is in the Makerfield constituency today, back in Burnham.
Yeah, he's always been a centrist dad kind of guy.
Yeah, well, I mean, we kind of got that when he danced in Love Actually as a prime minister, didn't he? But yeah, he's actually been he's been at the place where we were literally 2 days ago, back in
Becca
Burnham.
knew who I was talking about, by the way.
Crazy.
Becca knew.
Well, you did say in Parliament.
That's what you threw me.
Oh, sorry.
Because then I thought of Dennis Skinner because he's always making jibes in Parliament. So I was like, where are you going with this?
He's not been in Parliament for a while.
Well, he hasn't been in Parliament for a while, but since 2019 or before 2019, he was.
We've got this comment about talking about growth, and they have the cheek to take the piss out of Zack for being the titty whisperer. Growth, magic growth, bigger pies. There is this. I think I can't remember if it was Curtis or Lewis that said that, and I think you said, Curtis, that the Greens aren't anti-growth.
No, they're not anti-growth
necessarily, but they see growth in a different way, and I think
I would argue they see growth in the proper way because the mainstream way of looking at growth is usually unlocking wealth, right? Which is vague, but what they really mean is basically stripping regulations, allowing the rich to get richer, and the wealth trickles down. That's the way they see growth. Like I'm not saying that Labour are supporting tax cuts. The Tories were tax cuts and deregulation, but that's what they think growth is. Oh, we better use more private vendors for a toll bridge, right? That's not fucking growth, right? Good proper growth is growth from the bottom up or the middle out. So you need to make sure that people are well paid, because they can spend money into the economy. How do you do that? Well, you need stronger unions, for one, to make sure people have better bargaining powers. They need more money. But also state-led growth. Like, being in Britain with a central government, with a sovereign currency, is literally, we are so lucky to have that institution. But governments don't use it because they don't think it can work or they don't believe in it or whatever. But state-led growth is superb. So use the state to build houses. I'm talking about council houses, not just out to private tender. Build schools and hospitals, all in-house, not using private companies, right? Use the government to spend money to build things. That's how you get real growth. You get good quality schools. You get free school meals for everyone, by the way. Make sure kids are well nourished. And you have top of the range education, so it means people can go into education, we can get more doctors and nurses, that's good for society in terms of health-wise, and we make sure we have a far more balanced economy so people can participate and spend money. That is how you get growth. You don't get growth through tax cuts because, as we know, trickle-down economics doesn't work. So when Wes Streeting says, oh, well, the Greens are anti-growth, they're not anti-growth. It's just that they actually have an understanding of where growth actually comes from. They are willing to use the state and public investment to create growth. Whereas a good example, actually, was the Labour's Green Industrial Plan. And initially, it was really ambitious. They were going to commit to like 23 billion or 26 billion pounds every single year of state-led green investment. But that was good. Then, the closer we got to a general election, the number watered down. Okay, it's going to be 10 billion. It's going to be this amount of billion. And then ultimately, Rachel Reeves met a couple of capitalists in Davos. And then turns out, well, actually, no, it's just going to be managing private contracts. And I always bring this up, GB Energy. The idea that, this is a nationalized energy company. It's not. GB Energy is a government, again, you could probably call it Quango, which just manages private investments. So relying on private companies for growth is not good. Okay, it's good for making the rich richer, but if you want to get growth, you need to use, to quote Wes Streeting, an active state, but actually use the fucking state for what it's for. And the Greens actually understand that. But of course, Labour don't want to do that, so they just attack the Greens for being anti-growth. They are not anti-growth, okay? Maybe once upon a time they were, but HS2, I mean, they were against HS2, and I'd agree with you, that's an anti-growth policy, but now they've changed. Members have joined, and now they support HS2. And guess who doesn't support HS2? Fucking Labour, because they cancelled it. They wouldn't fully build it. So you want to support anti-growth? Tories and Labour, they won't support finishing HS2. So I don't think they can fucking sit there and call the Greens anti-growth.
I've got a better idea. So everyone's seen the Hunger Games, right?
It's a good way to start.
The concept of the Hunger Games is that when the children are starving, they can get food, but they have to have an extra name put in for the reaping, where they all fight to the death every year. I think the best way to get growth is that every time a NIMBY signs an application, they have to be put into the reaping, and then every year they have to fight to the death. And I feel like it could solve a lot of problems. It would provide entertainment, it would grow the economy, and we'd lose some of them, and we'd have less NIMBY applications. Did you guys see like 2 months ago that the fucking NIMBYs are now using AI-powered NIMBYism to sign?
Oh my god, it's the worst.
And for legal purposes, that was all satire.
No.
It wasn't at all. Deus Ex Ollie's donated £2 in a super chat to say towards the Blazer Dry Cleaning Fund. Loop has just become a member, and then immediately afterwards gifted 20 Turn Left memberships.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Thank you to those. We've also had a £10 super chat from Ephra Wells, who has said, help One Day Left to submit response to trail hunting consultation via DEFRA, HSA and Protect the Wild. Both have tips online. Down with Virago and Countryside Alliance, let's get hunting actually banned.
Yeah. Rich people are still killing foxes, and they'll be like, oops, our dogs didn't mean to go near the fox. We were just out trail hunting.
We just put a line of trail hunting, and they just happened to follow the scent.
So let's, that's a good cause.
Do you know what, by the way, what's Jacob Rees-Mogg's sister called again?
Begins with A, isn't it?
Oh, Annalisa or something?
No,
like
it's
that?
posher than that.
It's more telegraph than that.
I'm gonna have to check.
No, I'm checking. It's an Annunziata.
Yeah,
God.
That is fucking telegraph name, isn't it?
So she posted on social media like a few months ago that if the trail hunting ban passes, if it passes and it's completely outlawed in all circumstances, that 20,000 dogs were going to have to be killed because then they'd have no purpose.
Yeah, they don't have to do that.
Yeah, that's
but
who these people are.
Ask Rupert Lowe about what happened to his dog.
Oh yeah, good point. Good point. Still on Andy Burnham, Universe Girl has said public control is not nationalisation. Also, Andy said that he's sticking to Reeves' fiscal rules, so he's just going to be Starmer. Well, I mean, he did say that, but then when, I think it was it Beth Rigby asked him what those fiscal rules were, and he wasn't able to answer the question. He doesn't actually know what the fiscal rules are.
You could argue he's just saying that about the fiscal rules because of the bond markets, and of course, when you speak to the media and say, I'm going to change the fiscal rules, the market will be spooked. Now, I feel like a broken record saying this, but a lot of the right wing may say, oh, it's because of left wing policy and taxes. That's why the bond market's spooked. That's not why. It's all to do with certainty, right, and stability. That's what the bond markets really care about. So when Rachel Reeves cried in Parliament, the bond markets went crazy. Starmer and Reeves were like, see, this is why Rachel Reeves, well, Starmer didn't say this, but Rachel Reeves was kind of like, this is why I need to stay on, because I was crying and people thought I was going to go and the bond markets went haywire. So yeah, the bond markets went haywire because they thought you were going to go, not because they thought you were particularly good, but because they didn't know who was going to come next. They didn't know what policy is going to change. So one could argue Andy Burnham is trying to play it safe, because if he says, I'm going to change the fiscal rules, the media's going to report on it. The bond market will go a bit, oh my God, I don't know about Andy Burnham. Then he gets bad headlines. I absolutely understand that. The reason why I still think, though, that he's not just playing a game, and I do think he might fiddle the rules but not drastically change it, is because I think it speaks fundamentally to Andy Burnham's character, is that Andy Burnham, look, he's probably a nice bloke. We met him once. He seemed very lovely, but that's immaterial to politics. It's what you're going to do. I don't think he has strong enough principles to fight against the pressure, to fight against Labour MPs behind him who are ready to backstab him, or anything else. So when he says, I'm not going to change the fiscal rules, I think it's because he doesn't have strong enough principles to actually do that.
And interestingly, we had that conversation on the ground in the pub, didn't we? That was, I think it was John that we were speaking to, who doesn't vote. Although he said if he did vote, he'd probably vote Reform, but he's so disillusioned, he won't even vote for them. He's just not voting. And he sort of made that argument. They're all corrupt. They're all just as bad as each other. And he was adamant that Burnham's just as corruptible as the rest. And once he gets into power, he will just fall for that pressure that is put on him. By those around him. So
put Andy Burnham in a different environment. Put him in a better Labour Party. I said this to you, didn't I, Callum? Put him in cabinet and Jeremy Corbyn's Prime Minister. I think he'd do a good job. He'd flourish.
But also
put him in a Starmer's Labour Party or Morgan McSweeney's Labour Party. I think he'd just fold because he's not strong enough to fight against the machine.
As Mayor of Manchester, I think you said this to me the other day. He's not had a lot of pushback from.
He's not in the Westminster bubble,
because he's outside of that. So.
Yeah. And he said that himself. The reason why he left Westminster is because I'm sick of the Westminster bubble. Then went to become mayor. I think he did a good job, right? Yeah. And my assessment is Andy Burnham is keep him as far away from the Westminster bubble. He's better. And I predicted the closer he gets to the Westminster bubble, you'll see him slip back to his old ways. And people are saying Andy Burnham's changed. He's not a Blairite. He's definitely on the left now. He's probably taken on Corbyn's economic ideas. And it's like, it doesn't really matter whether he likes those ideas or not.
He prefers it. Sorry to interrupt you. I interviewed him in 2021. I think it was 21 at Tory Party conference. And then he was talking about how much he despises Westminster and the whole. He doesn't like the way it runs. He thinks that it's. I'm paraphrasing. These are not his exact words, but he recognised then the. He recognised the corruption. He recognised the way that people put pressure on. He recognised the fact that it doesn't understand. Westminster as a concept doesn't understand the people and what actually goes on the ground, and that's why he'd left and he didn't want to go back. So it will be interesting to see how he navigates that, given he's not only going back, but he's going back to try and go straight to the top.
Well, think about like he might get like Ned Starked, if you understand the reference. 15 years ago since that happened, end of season 1, right? So Ned Stark, leaves the game, goes back up north, and gets dragged back down to the capital years later, and everyone's playing all their games. You don't know who to trust, who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, who's manipulating you, who's not, and then you get your head chopped off. So
Spoilers.
Because he's been out of the game for so long from the
I
Westminster.
don't think you can fucking say spoilers when it was 15 years ago.
That's only
Spoilers.
only on season 3. So
Who knows? House of the Dragon's out this weekend. Anyway, that could easily happen because he won't know who to trust. He'll have some people that he's kept good relationships with, and he'll hear the rumors of this and that. But even the rumors that he would have heard about from all the way from Manchester will just be other people still playing their game. So he could have like integration problems, almost to speak, because he won't know who's playing what game as soon as he steps back into the Westminster bubble.
I just want to go through a few more. I'm aware of time, so I'll try and whiz through some. But we've had Sorry,
I did star one that I wanted to make sure we highlight as well.
I will probably get to it. If I don't do it, then let me know and we'll. We've had quite a few people, by the way. Flo Snakes thirded it, suggesting that we get an interview with a couple of Burks. They're really good on the auditor grift, but also on other stuff. A lot of people were suggesting that we do that. I had a look at some of the stuff while we were doing one of the segments, and I think Kev was all over some of the stuff, so that's all good. On the racism story about Restore members being racist, Poodlefish Girl said, Scylla sings, surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
Flow Snake says, no, I think Rupert Lowe has a carefully crafted grift. He's in someone's pocket. He's not exactly a Nick Tinconi.
Yeah, I think when I was saying about like Restore being more extreme and ideological in their beliefs, we're talking about those that have joined Restore. Like Lowe, for example. Obviously, he believes in the policies.
It was interesting, wasn't it?
But I think he's still, there's probably some sort of hands in pockets. But like the Steve Laws of the world, they are just fucking extremists.
It was interesting how, because I'd not really noticed this. You'd already talked about it, Curtis, but I said to you when we were out the other day that I'd not really noticed it until we did that interview with that lady in a house talking about reform, and she seemed sane and normal in comparison to the Restore lot. And this is the problem that you'd pointed out rightfully about Restore moving the Overton window, because they are making reform supporters and reform politicians seem almost like centrists. Like it's just it's ridiculous. Like we sat with that woman and had a chat and listened. We were talking about stuff, and then after, not on camera afterwards, we had a little chat about some other things, and she was talking about Restore, and she was saying no, they are racists. That like they're too extreme. And I'm sat there and I'm stood there and I'm thinking, yeah, but you're supporting reform. But actually, I couldn't disagree with what she was saying. Like Restore in comparison are insane.
And that's why I'm a bit skeptical when people say, oh, Restore is good. The growth is good because they're splitting the right. I don't think it's good. I think it's very, very bad. Yes, they may stop Reform winning in a handful of by-elections. Maybe they make the difference and Andy Burnham wins this. Sure. Short term, maybe. Long term, Restore to me is a fucking disaster because they are normalizing white supremacy. Yeah. They are. Okay? Yeah. You don't even need to say that everyone in Restore is a white supremacist, although convince me they're not. But at least the activists on the ground, they absolutely are. And see the foul shits on Twitter. I mean, there's a very extreme right-wing media organization called Vox Populi, and there was a video of young Bob getting beaten up, and apparently with that story, I can't confirm, but apparently with that story, he was attacking a girl, I heard, but I can't confirm that. But anyway, there were people of color involved, and someone said to a picture, and you had like three people of color who were like handling young Bob, and someone said everyone who was that ethnicity in that picture should be deported, right? And I clicked on that person's account, and he's like head of media Vox Populi and member of Restore Britain. Right, so this isn't just some random faceless crank. This is a member of Restore saying, basically, there's a picture of like a couple of brown people, and despite the fact that like, maybe someone's half Indian in that picture and I'm half Indian. I was nothing to do with what happened in the incident, but that person's like, I need to go. Yeah. So like, that's the kind of extreme shit.
Well, Hanny Candler has said, Suella and Layla are as British as I am. Yeah. And I'll always support their right as British people. But how did they not see that this is what it would lead to?
That's the thing. And I think when people say, but point to me a thing that Reform have said of racist, point to me a single thing that Farage has said is racist, or we can actually find quotes. The problem with dog whistle politics is, yes, the point is not to say it outright. So when we say things are racist, and then someone bites back and say, okay, name me one thing that's racist. Of course, it's very difficult to like find a black and white example of what's racist because politicians usually don't say racist things. They're not going to win votes. That's why they use dog whistles. And Reform use dog whistles There's a lot of racism in Reform, but they don't outright say it, of course. And I think that's where people like Layla can't see it, because she clearly can't see dog whistles, even though she's part of a political party that has allowed that to thrive, that has allowed Restore to get where they are. I mean, remember, without Reform, there wouldn't not be Restore, because a lot of people argue, and I happen to think they're correct, this is a vanity project for Rupert Lowe because he's pissed off that he got kicked out of Reform. So actually, without Reform, there might not be Restore. So it's all led to this. And Layla Cunningham, if she's received racist abuse, I think that's disgusting, because she shouldn't be receiving that. And I would absolutely fight for her rights too, with someone who I politically really disagree with.
The only thing I'd push back on is, like, you could potentially argue that Lowe's a grifter off the sense of, like, he's gaining popularity off of the grift. But I do think he's genuine in what he says, whereas I don't think Nigel Farage has always been genuine. I feel like he's almost like ridden a wave that he's created, and he's just kind of gone with it. Like, I do believe to an extent that, I don't think Nigel would have a problem if 5% or the 10% of the country wasn't white. I think he just doesn't want it to go any further. That's probably like maybe a fair statement. He's obviously a racist, right? But this is a party Reform, and Nigel Farage has always been surrounded by people with like mixed backgrounds.
Yeah.
And yes, he's still a racist, and you obviously still can be.
I think he cares more about money and power than racism.
He's got his fascistic tendencies, but I think Rupert is genuine, and I think that's the
Lewis,
big.
Do you think Restore might do all right tomorrow night in Makerfield election?
I don't know.
I really don't know.
Because at the moment the polling at about 7%, give or take. However, the Reform lot seem to think that they're not even going to keep the deposit.
I think that's a load of rubbish. Look,
which I also think is a load of rubbish. But the reason I'm asking though is because I did the same thing with Reform when Reform were first sort of picking off. I sort of scoffed, like, and the thought of Reform doing particularly well, I was like, yeah, of course, all right, whatever. But actually, they've proven otherwise. And Restore, particularly, I know it was only in Great Yarmouth, which is Rupert Lowe's seat. But they won every seat in the local elections in Great Yarmouth, and to do that and then be polling at 7% in a by-election not long later is pretty significant.
And I know it's anecdotal.
And everyone says Reform are quotes a new party. They're not. They've been going for years. They were the Brexit party. Restore literally is a new party, so they're doing all right.
It's anecdotal, right? But like the conversations we had, Callum, with people and also with Reform people, how much of the conversation was centered around Restore? We didn't speak to anyone about the Greens. Not a single person said anything about the Green Party.
We did see one placard, though.
We saw one placard from the Greens, but not a single person even mentioned the Greens, really. I think the person in the pub might have done that, but I think I brought them up, to be fair. But no one talked about the Greens, okay? Whereas Restore was the centre of the conversation with a lot of Reform people. And I don't think you would get to that level of notoriety if they're going to lose their deposit. I think it's Reform cope by saying, oh, they're going to lose a deposit. That's major cope. They might not get a 7%, but I don't think they are a joke. And they might not win a single seat in Parliament, right? But that doesn't mean they're not a joke. I mean, they are setting the debate. But I expect, I think Restore's to get more votes than the Greens.
Yeah, well, another one
I think that's going to happen.
Another one.
I'm actually going to select the comment just as a continuation of what we're talking about now.
I was literally going to go to that one. You read my mind, Lewis.
Perfect.
So QVC Owl. Yeah. So. Sorry, so they've said
taking your job away from me.
I was going to say you can do it if you want. It's fine. They've said we can gloat about Restore splitting the vote, but any fascist group rising is a real fucking bad sign.
I completely agree with that. That's my stance.
And the reason I'm bringing it up is because I have still said for a while that I don't think Nigel Farage is going to stick around to the next election, because he is only ever going to want to really win, and he won't accept anything else. And he will walk away at some point and say that if they lose, it's not his fault. He wasn't in charge. I left the party in a good place, yada, yada, yada. And his interview with Nick Ferrari was really telling as well. Like, Nick actually said something around this. He asked him a question about it, and he's like, oh, it might be me there at the next election. And it's like, that's a really interesting response. He's been hiding away now for like 55 days away from pretty much any journalists that are going to actually hold him accountable. No press conferences. I do think the scrutiny is getting to him. We've seen him crack. We've seen him become emotional. And the reason I'm bringing that up is that if he steps away, where are a lot of those voters going to go? Restore.
Yeah.
And this is why this comment is relevant, because if people are happy, like, oh yeah, the right wing's been supported, maybe we should point some more people in the direction of restore and stuff like this, or whatever it might be, like a kind of like quasi accelerationism in a way. It can lead to very bad things.
But I do think in part though that's why. I mean, Reform are making a big point at the moment of trying to put other people front and centre. I mean, Layla Cunningham's been all over the place. Richard Tice is doing other press conferences. Zia Yusuf's still getting shipped out every time there's a question time appearance, slot needing filled, and that is actually quite effective, because what they're doing is they're showing the public that the party is more than just Nigel Farage, so that inevitably, if Farage does take a step back, people, in theory, could look at Reform and say,
Yeah.
well, actually, no, it doesn't matter.
It's
we
not
can
quite
do it
at the
without him.
point. It's not
And I
quite at the point
think-
where he can leave. It's still a personality cult.
I actually agree with the Reform voter that we spoke to, the lady we spoke to in the house. She said, that like where UKIP capped at like 4 million votes. She said something about the fact that that's what will happen with Restore, which will split the vote. But I think what's going to happen is Reform is basically going to become the next version of the Conservative Party, and because Restore is making Reform seem sensible, I think that will help Reform get more votes from the Conservatives
Yeah.
and become the long-term replacement of the Conservative Party. In a way that the Greens would like to do with Labour.
And that's the thing. And this is why it's so important to replace the Labour Party. I know people might be thinking, but we can't split it's no longer progressive vote, but the anti-right vote. And I think people might be scared of Reform, scared of Restore, that they might just back Labour. But we have to think the reason why Reform and Restore exist is because people are fed up of Labour and the Tories. So if Restore takes over Reform, or more likely, Reform probably completely takes over the Conservatives, it's so important that a left-wing party, maybe the Greens, takes over the Labour Party, because we need to drag that over to window back. I mean, just imagine if Reform completely destroys the Tories and they have so much percentage of the vote, and Labour go, one more move to the right might work, because they keep fucking doing that. We need a strong left-wing presence. We need someone to drag the Overton window back so that Reform will start to look fucking extreme again, not looking more moderate.
I think
And the next thing you know, the UK's renamed Gilead, if anybody gets that.
Yeah.
We do.
I mean, it'll
Some
be
people
interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens tomorrow. I'm sure you'll all be discussing this again on Friday with Alyssa. I imagine that will be one of the stories once we've got the results from the by-election. Anyway, just a couple.
Speaking of results, is anybody keeping an eye on the England match?
Oh, yes.
I wasn't. I deliberately wasn't mentioning it because I didn't want all of our viewers to leave.
To leave.
And we're about to. It's 1-0 to England.
Oh, 1-0 up.
Of course, it
Get in
is.
there.
Apparently, there was a psychic chimpanzee or something somewhere. Or I don't know if it was a chimpanzee. I'm being apist. I don't know if it was an ape or a chimpanzee or a. It was a monkey of some form. Apparently, predicted that England would win tonight. So, just before we go though, just a couple of quick other ones on Annunciata Rees-Mogg. Graham said, "Isn't that a spell in Harry Potter?" Bless her. Jim Speaks also said, Turn Left's next outing is a UK tour of dark alleys, smoking crank. It's Turn Methed. Which made me laugh.
I sort of think our name's so bad because people keep fucking parodying it.
And Andrew Luke wants to know, Curtis, why do you hate Steve Bray?
I don't hate him. I don't know why you think that. I don't have much thoughts about him, but
If you want to trigger Curtis, just ask him why he hates Jonathan Ashworth.
Yeah,
I know, that will set him off.
It's Jonathan Ashworth, I think. Yeah, not Steve.
I can
Bray.
tell you-
Steve Bray's just a guy with a megaphone.
I can tell you why
John
I hate-
Ashworth is the world's biggest loser.
I can tell you why I hate Steve Bray, and I'll say this: I actually appreciate his grift, I really do. But I'll tell you why I hate Steve Bray. He makes shooting content outside Parliament nigh on impossible, because every time you've got audio, he's always playing music, even though the parodies of real songs. It always flags up a copyright strike. He makes shooting anything outside Parliament an absolute nightmare. When Rishi Sunak resigned, I was watching it I had the news on in the background, and I was watching it, and I was streaming on TikTok, and I got a copyright strike on TikTok because of the music that Steve Bray was playing in the background. I was like,
Fucking
"You
Steve Bray.
dickhead." Don't get me wrong, it was brilliant. Like it was history as it was happening, but it was just he makes making content in the centre of London a nightmare. But that's also a brilliant way to shut the auditors up. If you're out at a protest and it's full of all the auditors, blast a load of copyrighted music out
But
of your speakers.
the auditors are based, right? They're on our side. Okay, Young Bob has done so much. Young Bob has done more for the left since Clement fucking
Well,
Attlee.
he's got more right wingers arrested, certainly, hasn't he?
Exactly. He's been brilliant.
Just to clarify, if anybody doesn't know,
Comrade.
young Bob, who was apparently viciously attacked in the street the other night, we don't know the full story. He was so happy to film so many people at the Southampton protest that turned violent that he ended up getting a lot of his friends arrested. But this is the problem. Anytime you go onto any of these people's TikToks, like do you remember that clip after Henry Novak where it was like 7 people in a police station kneeling down? Every single one of them had a camera. But it's not even just like a camera as in like your mum's phone. It's like live streaming. Like everybody is constantly live streaming because it's a part of the grift about getting likes, reposts, getting gifted on TikTok and all this type of stuff. They're so obsessed with it. It's now causing a lot of arrests. It's also got a lot of people arrested as well during Southport. Thank you for incriminating yourself.
And so I think that they're undercover leftists.
Well, he's gone.
Yes.
He's now spending the rest of his week in fighting for reform in the by-election, and he has put a public apology out.
You mean
saying
restore,
that-
not reform?
Restore,
He's a big
sorry,
yeah,
the
restore
same
guy.
difference in it. They're all a bunch of racists. And yeah, although I was thinking this morning actually when I saw he put a video. I mean, in fairness, I know we don't know the full story, but I think we can say that he was certainly attacked in the streets of Manchester. I mean, who and what happened, I don't know, but like that didn't happen. But he posted a video about it, and it got me thinking. You know, when he's a little bit older, he's gonna have to change his entire brand because he won't be Young Bob forever. You know, his name's actually Gregory. I don't know if he's gonna be. You know, if he's just gonna wait until he
Young
hits a
Gregory
certain
doesn't
age
have
and
the
then
same ring to it, though.
yeah, but he wouldn't change it until he was older. He can be Young Bob and he can be Old Greg. So,
Look, I know that he's 17, and if he has been attacked in the street without actual, violence or provocation leading before it, which is what is alleged by some people, but we don't know. The comment that he left after was absolutely and utterly a dog whistle and disgusting, and I will say this, and I don't care. He purposely worded his statement after to cause as much potential trouble as possible.
well, it was interesting. It was interesting that he claimed that the Manchester police had said that it was the highest profile attack they dealt with in recent memory, when this is the same police force that dealt with the Manchester Arena bombing. I mean, come on.
You know what? I can actually refute that right here. I will happily say this. I saw something happen.
And also,
on social media.
sorry to interrupt,
Wait,
Louise, but didn't they also deal with the thing at Manchester Airport as well? Like, come on. Sorry,
It's not like a high-profile person, though, is it? I had to call the police about something related to that incident. I'm not going to say what, but I had to give information to the police about something else was happening related to the incident online to Greater Manchester Police that evening. And when I rang them and asked, talking to the dispatchers, they had no fucking clue what I was talking about. Like they weren't aware of this Young Bob attack or anything like this. And I'm only laughing because if he's claiming it's the most high-profile recent attack in history, then it's bullshit.
But hey, look,
I'm
but
sorry.
GB News have got him on now. GB News got him on. It's
Oh,
just-
so he was only
but to be fair, but you've appeared on GB News as well, Curtis. So I mean, being on GB News doesn't make it high profile. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, GB News have jumped on the fucking grift.
Oh yeah, of course
Young
they
Bob.
have.
That's
Of
what I
course they
mean.
have. Sorry, I was making a dig there, Curtis. Isn't it?
Look, it's
yeah,
20.
like
It's
17,
20
I don't
past
wanna
9,
see-
by the way. Just saying.
Anyway, I'll say this: he's 17. I don't want to see random people getting attacked, especially
at all.
17-year-olds, if that's what happened. But ultimately, don't be a cunt. At the same time, you purposely tried to incite violence. I would say so after by posting that tweet saying that the kids who attacked you because they looked like 15-year-olds were migrants. You said the police allowed them to put violence upon you. It was such a dog whistle. So I think somebody who's trying to incite violence after that, fuck you. I don't want you to get attacked, but fuck you.
And on that note, Steve says he was attacked by a squirrel once, and the police never even turned up. So
That's a
just-
scandal. That's a Turn Left
it's just-
exclusive.
It's appalling. Thank you both very much. I'm going to drop it down and
Cool. Thank
catch
you very much,
another time.
Callum. That was a superb show, but my God, it's gone for nearly 2 hours. We really need to get better at having
By the way,
Sorry?
My face seems really zoomed in. I've been going like
does-
this all the time.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. What a close up. We
was a good
really
show.
keep saying to try like let's be better at timing. We can't. We need to do better because finishing at 9:20 is crazy. But guess what? It was a fantastic show and really enjoyed it. Lewis, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Goodbye, everyone. Have a good day. England are winning. Yay.
1-0. Okay, but that might not be. Well, we'll see the results. They're probably doing a hydration break. Anyway, thank you to everyone who tuned in. Thank you to your donations. Thank you to your comments. Remember, if you support us and you want to see us grow, then please go to turnleftmedia.co.uk/supports. Help fund our work, help us grow, and you can also support us on Twitch by going to twitch.tv/turnleftmedia. You can also become a YouTube member for 99p. Remember, we go live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 7:30 p.m. You've been watching Normal Islands Live. I'm Curtis Daly, and I'll see you next time.